You know, sometimes all you want is a light read. Something to clear your mind after trudging through a book so dense it practically required a machete. So, I thought, what could be lighter than a James Bond novel? Glamorous women, cocktails shaken, not stirred, exotic locations, and of course Bond himself. Suave, brilliant, and always just one step ahead of death. But what I got, well, let's just say I felt like I was watching someone play a video game on easy mode with all the cheat codes on. He got hit, sure, but his hair didn't even ruffle. Let me tell you the story. Buckle up, or don't. Bond probably wouldn't.
Honey, write it.
So, James Bond, Agent 007, is supposed to be on sabbatical. You know, sipping martinis, healing from the trauma of saving the world countless times, probably flirting with a therapist just to pass the time. But MI6 had other ideas. Bond, we need you, they say. There's a mysterious man doing mysterious things, they say. And off he goes. No rest for the impeccably dressed.
Got your attention.
Enter Dr. Julius Gorner. Now, if someone is named Julius Gorner and you're in a Bond novel, you already know he's not organizing a charity bake sale. This guy's creepy, secretive, and probably smells faintly of global domination. And of course, his plans? They aren't just your run-of-the-mill villainy. No, Gorner's cooking up something that could quite possibly ignite another world war. Because obviously, Bond is told to investigate. And as usual, this investigation isn't a regular 9 to 5 with tea breaks and HR meetings. No, it's a whirlwind. Italy, England, France, Iran. The man collects passport stamps like the rest of us collect receipts. Along the way, there's a mysterious young woman. Because of course there is. Bond novels without mysterious women are like tea without biscuits. She's beautiful, enigmatic, and very conveniently helpful. Through her, Bond begins to uncover the scale of Gorner's sinister plot. And as the pages turn, Bond does what Bond does. He flirts, he fights, he drives fast, he thinks fast. He survives things no human realistically should. Just when you think, this is it, there's no way out, Bond remembers he's James Bond and naturally escapes. I mean, it's as if danger takes one look at him and politely steps aside. And look, I get it, he's James Bond. He's not supposed to die in chapter 4. But even knowing this, I found myself bored. Not by the stakes, not by the action, but by how predictably perfect Bond was. It's like watching a magician who insists on explaining every single trick as he performs it. There were supposed to be on-the-edge-of-your-seat moments, and technically they were there. The locations were great, the villain was sufficiently evil, and the woman was mysterious enough. But still, I kept waiting to be surprised. Instead, I was mostly just waiting. The book I'm talking about is Devil May Care by Sebastian Faulks, writing under the name Ian Fleming, a book written to celebrate the centenary birthday of the original Bond creator himself, Ian Fleming. So why did this book feel a little underwhelming? To begin with, I picked it up hoping for a light read, a literary palate cleanser after a particularly heavy book, and in some ways it delivered that. It was light. Too light. The writing, while competent, lacked that spark, that edge-of-your-seat unpredictability that makes thrillers truly thrilling. You know how Bond movies sometimes get away with ridiculous plots because the action is so good you don't even care? Well, imagine that same plot without the explosions or Daniel Craig's smoldering gaze to distract you. That's kind of what happened here. I knew Bond would get out of every scrape. I knew the beautiful woman would either betray him or save him, or both. I knew the villain would monologue, and I knew Bond would win. And not just win, but win effortlessly. The problem wasn't that Bond was good at his job. It was that he was too perfect. Intelligence and serendipity worked hand in hand like synchronized swimmers, pulling him out of situations that would leave mere mortals weeping into their bulletproof vests. And that lack of real struggle, of vulnerability, is what dulled the impact for me. Devil May Care does touch on several classic Bond themes. First up, there's Cold War paranoia. The looming threat of global war is a familiar backdrop for Bond's adventures. Then you've got the charismatic villain with a grand plan, and Dr. Julius Gorner fits this archetype snugly. There's also that sense of exotic escapism. From Italy to Iran, the scenery is always changing, giving readers a glamorous tour of international hotspots. And of course, Bond's moral clarity is front and center. He knows who the bad guys are, and his mission is always justified, even if it involves, well, a bit of extreme violence or seduction as a strategy. But here's the thing. These themes feel like checked boxes rather than organic story elements. There's a mechanical quality to the novel, as though it were reverse-engineered to be Bond-like rather than naturally thrilling. Still, some readers, especially hardcore Bond fans, might enjoy this one. It does faithfully recreate many elements of the classic Bond formula, right down to the language and tone. In fact, Faulks reportedly reread all the original Fleming books before writing this one just to make sure he got the style right. And stylistically, he does succeed. The prose feels very Fleming-esque. The descriptions are sharp, the dialogue crisp, and Bond's personality is consistent with the original novels. But style isn't always enough. So who is Sebastian Faulks and why is he writing as Ian Fleming? Well, Sebastian Faulks is best known for more literary works like Birdsong, a novel set in World War I that's heavy on emotion and psychological insight. He's not exactly the first author you'd think of to write a Bond novel, but he was invited to do so as part of the centenary celebration of Ian Fleming's birth in 2008. Faulks himself admitted he wasn't trying to reinvent Bond, but rather to channel Fleming's style and pay tribute to the original series. He described the process as, well, picking up a violin and playing Mozart. The music was already there, he just had to interpret it. So in many ways, Devil May Care is more homage than reinvention. It's respectful, it's polished, but it doesn't take risks. And maybe that's the real issue. In a genre that thrives on risk, danger, and the unexpected, playing it safe can ironically be the most dangerous choice of all. Would I recommend Devil May Care? Only to the most dedicated Bond fans. If you're someone who collects Bond memorabilia, knows the difference between a PPK and a P99, and still debates which actor wore the tux best, then yes, this might be a worthy addition to your shelf. But if you, like me, were hoping for a fast, fun, refreshing read, this one might leave you thirsty. That said, I'll still keep watching the movies. I've loved them since my older brother introduced me to them more than 2.5 decades ago. The explosions, the music, the ridiculous one-liners. Somehow, on screen, it all works. Bond belongs in motion. On the page, maybe, but only when the stakes feel real and the danger isn't just cosmetic. So that's my take on Devil May Care by Sebastian Faulks, writing as Ian Fleming. Have you read this one? Do you agree, or did you find it thrilling in all the right ways? Let me know in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed this review, hit that like button, subscribe for more literary deep dives, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, remember, even Bond needs a break sometimes. Cue theme music, or maybe just a sip of tea. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.